How do you accommodate casual and involved players in your game? Today on Out of Character. Hi, and welcome to Out of Character. I'm Jason Corley.
I'm Jerry Creason.
And I'm Jonathan Sturtman.
And assisting us today on engineering is Scott Forster.
Hello.
Now, before we jump into today's topic, I got word of a Kickstarter that Pulp Gamer is running. And John, you're the star, is that right?
Yes, I am.
What is it? Tell us about it.
It is about a character named Grok Bloodface.
Obviously, a character name that Don wrote.
Yes. Yes.
Sounds at about his level of maturity. Tell us about this Bloodface guy.
All right, so Grok Bloodface is an orc living in the land of the humans.
Okay.
He is one of the first of his kind to be born in the land of the humans after the veil was lifted and the Fae found themselves living side by side with us humans.
Here in Tucson?
Here in Tucson, yes. He lives in the Anasazi Sunhold in the Santa Catalina Mountains.
Wow. So it's sort of an urban fantasy kind of a situation, like you might see in Dresden Files or maybe in the Borderlands books.
Pretty much.
Okay, cool. So what is the Kickstarter for? What does Grok do?
The Kickstarter is so that Grok can tell the original orc stories and kind of educate the world about the truth and reality of orcs, because there's kind of a PR problem. Most orcs kind of run around, there's a show called America's Most Wanted Orcs.
Oh, no.
And so it's kind of one of those things where everybody who has been drinking or smoking something that they shouldn't have just sits back and flips through the channels and they see orcs doing dumb stuff. So Grok wants to alleviate that.
So there's a lot of orcs running around in like wife beater t-shirts, being chased by cops through trailer parks.
Well, I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have gone in that direction.
See, this is why I don't get to write these. So, and what is exactly the Kickstarter for? Like, what is the money going to go to?
The money is going to go to creating a series with either, depending on the funding goals that we hit with the Kickstarter, 5 episodes or 10 episodes, and there's some other extra overfund goals to reach of Grok telling orc stories.
Cool. So the Grok character is on this sort of web series, and he tells the stories. But when I saw a clip, there was like some really funny animation in it too.
Oh, right. So interspliced with Grok telling the stories, Don hired a guy to put together these great animations to kind of put a book together of these stories that Grok is telling. So
like in the children's book style, because he's telling these stories to bring the orc culture to the next generation, so to speak.
Right.
Cool.
So are these kind of like little fairy tales that big orcs tell, little orcs at bedtime?
So Grok would take big issues with you calling them fairy tales. He's not a big fan of fairies.
Oh, well.
Okay.
So he's a little...
Just be warned. It's
orc stories. All right.
They're orc stories.
That.
They've, the elves, they changed it into fairy stories.
Oh, I see.
All
The
right.
elves just do those. They're not very nice.
Yeah.
Elven PR there.
Yeah, exactly.
All that copyright infringement.
Well, cool. And right now, the Kickstarter should be up by the time this episode comes out, so definitely go check it out. And it's hard to believe when you see the preview video that this is the guy playing Grok for real. The makeup looks amazing in this, so I definitely think everybody should check it out.
Yes.
And if they can't send money, they should send rutabagas.
I don't think there's a rutabaga starter yet.
Well, no, but for Grok, because Grok says he likes rutabagas.
Oh, okay.
So.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to get to today's topic, which is how you accommodate. Actually, I started last week and I said that it was, are casual players a threat or a menace? And the reason why
Well, that doesn't put a positive spin on it at all whatsoever. It's either bad or worse. That's not very fair.
Well, and the reason I put it like that is because so many times when I'm talking on internet forums with people and people are like, well, there's someone in my game, they don't learn the system, we've been playing it for a year and they still have to ask for like the most basic knowledge of the system. They don't remember any of the NPCs. They don't know the plot. They're just kind of showing up to show up. And I can't seem to get them more involved. And in the video game community, there's a big conflict between casual gamers and hardcore gamers. The people who've been around a long time, maybe they want games to be more difficult. They want them to be more involved. The casual gamer wants to be able to sit down and play Peggle for a couple of rounds. And personally, I love Peggle myself. But
Peggle is great for when you don't have the brain for anything else.
Yeah, exactly.
But still, you
Well, I
want to
think-
bring them in and get them involved in the game. I mean, if everybody's there and they're playing a game, you want to interact with everybody. It's the entire point, right?
Exactly. And one of the things that, so I wanted to make this question more about how you accommodate the casual player, how you recognize them, and how can you support them in a game with more involved players.
Well, I think that you need to subcategorize a casual player. My husband's group has a casual player. He's extremely busy with school. And when he gets a chance to come and play, he does. Sometimes he doesn't have the brain to sit down and play. He just wants to be there socially, maybe work on a paper while he's there with all of his friends.
And when it's time to roll the dice, he'll roll the dice.
Actually, he won't even necessarily play. He'll just sit there and, be peanut gallery, that sort of thing. And that's when he gets a chance to come. So there's those kinds of players. Then there's the casual players that really don't have any interest in, learning the system. They're not munchkins. They don't want to read the entire core rule book from, cover to cover. So I think that you have to find out why your casual player is a casual player and then make accommodations based on that.
One thing that we've talked about before is identifying why you're there. Like, why are you at this place playing this game at this time? John,
Does somebody drag you there against your will?
Right, exactly.
Because that's probably not going to work out.
No.
And I've had casual players in my game as well, and they were there for primarily social reasons. Some games actually have roles that are suited for people who have less investment in the game. Primetime Adventures is a good example. It literally has audience mechanics. Primetime Adventures is a game in which you create a television show together and you play the characters.
Nice.
And then if you have people who attend like once or twice, they're audience members and they can contribute to the story by spending what's called fan mail in order to alter the direction of one conflict or another. It's an amazing.
That's fun.
It's an amazing game. It's about to come out with a 3rd edition. I've gotten to play test it. It's great. But for the guy who literally is there, he's going to do his homework and he kind of wants to listen and interact and he's enjoying things. I think the audience mechanic like that would be ideal.
All right.
What if you're playing classic D&D or anything else like
Right.
that? What do you do?
Yeah, that's a situation. I mean, again, why are you there? If it's a tactical challenge and you've got dead weight in your tactical party, right? He's a waste of resources. He's actually dragging down your group. So
My group calls
old
them
school-
butterscotch.
Butterscotch. Why butterscotch?
Butterscotch. Because they're there, but they're not really there.
Autopilot.
Sort of. Or if somebody happens to be absent for that particular game, even though technically they're still with our party, but they're not
they're
really
on autopilot.
Right, exactly. And so they don't really. Their character is just sort of, like that.
Even when they are there.
Thief, and I will open the door. I'm going to roll. I got my roll. I will open the door.
Right, kind of like that. So.
Okay, so you have a bad name for them.
Butterscotch.
But how do you
Bad name.
accommodate them in a game if there's a tactical challenge and someone is not paying attention enough to chase down that challenge thoroughly? What do you do?
I think there's no clean answer to this. I mean, if you're a DM and you know that you're going to accommodate, casual players in your game, you have to make NPCs that are going to be easily autopiloted.
Right.
But then you can hand this sheet to somebody and say, "Here you go. You're an elf. You have blonde hair. It's really long, and just go with it." This happened during one of my games.
Right.
We had this Underdark campaign, and I couldn't show up all the time because I was in school.
Right.
Yeah.
But I didn't show up to do homework. I wanted to actually play. So I actually added this really strange kind of feel to the game because I turned this blonde-haired elf guy into a cross between Fabio and Simon Belmont.
Oh, wow.
I like it.
It was great. I mean, the entire campaign took on this like fun, tongue-in-cheek kind of like, we're roaming through the Underdark.
That's great. And so what you did there is you were able to provide flavor that
Flavor.
Yeah, exactly. To a character that maybe on paper was just sort of very straightforward.
Right.
So I think, and I think that's a good way to look at it. If they're not going to provide tactical advantages,
Right.
because they're not paying attention to the tactics, give them something else to contribute, and the
don't
group
make
has to
them
be
feel-
open to it.
And don't make them feel guilty if they can't show up every single week. If they have a life, if they have school, if they've just had a baby, if there's other things going on,
Right.
when they can show up, any sort of, oh, well, blah, 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 we could have used you last week kind of thing. I mean,
And also,
any of those sorts of guilt
and
trips.
don't push that in character either, because
No.
I've had that happen too, where it's
Yeah.
like, well, if you'd only been here last week, you would know, blah blah blah. That's terrible.
Gaming is a fellowship of friends. And if you're not going to treat each other as friends, then you shouldn't play together. So
Right. It's also about entertainment. You're there to have a good time.
Exactly.
And, showing up just to have somebody like talk crap and demean you, that's not fun.
That's not fun at all.
Yeah.
So.
And there are ways, like in your example, you became less of a casual player, not because of any change that you made, but because your group was able to accommodate this different flavor, this different tone. So if you have a casual player in your group and they have something they want to contribute, even if it's not the core of, like if you're a tactical group and one person is just not going to ever be tactical, but you value having them there, reward them for their contributions, give them some recognition for what they bring to the table, even if it's just, an audience member from Primetime Adventures, or...
You could use them as a plot point. You could use them as that chaos element. There's a lot of different things, but you need to be creative and you need to be accommodating for the fact that they're a part of your group, therefore they're a part of your, group of friends.
Right. Right. Well, if you have any experience with casual players, you can send it to us on Twitter. You can talk to us on Facebook or leave a message in the show notes here on YouTube or on pulpgamer.com, where you can also see some of our other links. Don't forget to check out John on the Bloodface Kickstarter. And we'll see you next week when we'll talk about what makes a successful RPG and what makes a not so successful RPG. See you then.
pulpgamer.com